Hey, what's going on everybody? My name is TAETRO here at 343 Labs, and today I want to show you 2 ways that I use sampled vocals in Ableton Live. Alright, so the first way I want to show you that I like to chop up vocals is by just taking a sample and putting it into a drum rack. And I'm going to do that first by taking the sample as a clip in session view and just placing some random warp markers. Now, you could take more time and figure out what part of the sample you want to put your warp markers. I'm going to do it a little bit randomly, which adds a little more interest to the chopped samples that we get. I'm also kind of using these little phantom warp markers as a guide in some places. But I want to place the warp marker where I think either a new sound starts or like a transition sound starts, like one note to the other. And let me play you guys what the vocal sample sounds like. Nobody does it quite like you. So just a really basic splice male vocal sample. And I've placed a bunch of warp markers here. And what I'm going to do now is right click in here and click slice to new MIDI track. So it'll say create 1 slice per, and we're going to use warp markers, but you can see that you can actually just do this by transients or by the time division. We're going to use warp markers because we just placed all those. We're going to just use the basic slicing preset, the built-in one, and we're going to hit OK. Now what Live does is it gives me a drum rack that contains all those different slices where I put the warp markers. So let's look at these. And what I can do is just turn these into one shots. And I might bring up the attack for a little more of a smoother transition between notes. And let's add a little bit of reverb in here. And the fun part about it is if you just place the warp markers randomly, you can find different slices working well against other slices and create cool patterns. So I'm going to just play a quick drum loop, and I'm going to stop that old sample. And I'm just going to play with this drum loop. I'm going to add some delay as well. So you can see how you can get creative with doing different patterns. Now, one thing you might have noticed is sometimes these samples bleed over each other. And if I want them to cut each other off, I need to put them all in the same choke group. The way I do that is by opening this I/O menu here. And then we can see each sample has a choke group setting. They're all currently set to none. Just to quickly do this, I'm going to set them all to 16. It's just quicker to not bring the mouse all the way back up to 1. But you could get creative and set up different choke groups. So not all the sounds cut off each other, only certain sounds cut off each other. A good example of a choke group in a normal drum kit is an open hi-hat to a closed hi-hat. So a closed hi-hat sound will always normally cut off an open hi-hat sound because they're in the same choke group. And let's say I want that note to be longer. It's already warped here. I could just hit ×2. Let me just demo that really quick. So you take a really basic vocal sample, chop it up randomly, and try to see how all those different slices fit together, and then mess with the length. So if you want a note to be a little bit longer, it can be. Second most common way I like to chop up vocal samples is by putting them into a simpler instrument. So let me show you how we do that. We go to Instruments, we grab Simpler, then we go into our samples, find the vocal sample we want to use. I already have in mind one I want to use. This works a little better if you find longer, more drawn out notes. So what I'm going to do with this sample here, let me just play you the preview so you can hear what it sounds like. Same thing again. What I'm going to do now is just crop in on this smaller section of the sample. And with this track armed, it is a MIDI track, so I can play it on the keys. That's pretty low, and that's the natural key of the sample. And what you notice if I play up the keyboard, especially if I play between those two octaves, the sample plays at the normal speed at middle C, but 2 octaves up, it plays really fast because it's higher in pitch. So what we're going to do now is warp it, and we're going to use the tones warp mode, which will make all of these notes uniform in length. That doesn't sound too great, so I'm going to probably play this sample a little lower. Also add a little bit of reverb and delay here, and let's play it with the beat. What I might even do is crop it in a little bit more, so that scoop at the beginning is a little more subtle. Let's add a little filter. And I will turn up the attack just a little bit, which I did with the other sample too. It just makes it a little bit smoother, especially when you're slicing and cropping in on samples like that. Another thing we can also do is turn on glide. Which makes the notes glide between each other if they overlap. So with this sampling technique, we're using the vocal sample as more of one note on an instrument. You could play it as a scale. And you can hear that even more clearly if we just take out that scoop at the beginning and just play one single note. But then if you play the chops, you know, we're not really playing it as a scale, we're more like fitting different pieces of a puzzle together in interesting ways. So that's 2 main ways that I use vocal samples in Ableton Live. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe to 343 Labs channel for more tutorials just like this. And if you're interested in taking classes, either in New York City or online, visit the website, link in the description. My name is TAETRO, and if you like this video, you might also enjoy some videos on my channel, which I'll leave a link to down below as well. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good one.